Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. China is reinforcing its claims around Taiwan again, but today we're seeing a slightly different flavor. Taipei is making it clear that any maritime boundary discussions between Japan and the Philippines cannot impact Taiwan's rights. These talks overlap with Taiwan's exclusive economic zone east of the island, and the Foreign Ministry is taking steps to engage directly with the Japanese and Philippine governments to make sure any agreements don't undermine Taiwan's sovereign interests. Japan has reiterated that any bilateral deal with the Philippines wouldn't legally bind third parties, but Beijing has framed the talks as yet another opportunity to assert its own jurisdiction, using Taiwan's acknowledgement of the talks as a foil to strengthen its narrative. The Chinese Coast Guard made waves on June 1st, formally announcing patrols east of Taiwan as law enforcement operations. This marks an evolution from prior exercises. Beijing is clearly signaling that these waters are under its de facto control. Observers note that this is about normalizing presence and creating a legalistic veneer around claims, reinforcing both to regional neighbors and Taipei that these zones are strategically important to China. This isn't a repeat of last week. Today's emphasis is on the law enforcement framing, not just routine naval drills. Taiwan remains alert and persistent. The Defense Ministry reports PLA activity around the Taiwan Strait, including sorties crossing the median line and multiple Chinese naval vessels operating in the area. The takeaway isn't the numbers, it's the steady pressure. China wants Taiwan and the region to internalize that operational reach and territorial claims are always on display. Meanwhile, Taiwan continues to develop automated monitoring capabilities. New emphasis has been placed on robotic patrol systems for remote island outposts, including reconnaissance and rapid response roles. Units on the ground have flagged these systems as increasingly necessary for routine surveillance, showing that Taiwan is evolving its approach to automation in a practical, mission-oriented way. This is a subtle but important development from what we heard yesterday. The focus isn't just demonstration, it's operational integration. Turning south, the Solomon Islands is signaling a strategic recalibration. Prime Minister Matthew Whale has announced a review of the 2022 Security Pact with China, noting that he only recently had access to the full agreement due to a non-disclosure clause. Whale has removed certain officials from key positions and is actively pursuing a comprehensive strategic treaty with Australia. Canberra has committed support packages on energy, cyclone recovery, and policing partnerships. This is a clear message that Honiara is reassessing Beijing's influence and seeking a more transparent, mutually beneficial arrangement with Canberra. In a broader regional context, logistics hints suggest China may be preparing for high-level engagement with North Korea. An Air China cargo flight made a round trip from Beijing to Pyongyang on June 1st. Reports indicate a potential Xi visit, though there's no confirmation yet. Even without an official visit, the cargo flight alone indicates that Beijing is laying groundwork for strategic coordination, highlighting that China maintains privileged access in Pyongyang, which it can leverage in regional calculations. Domestically, Xi Jinping is making it unmistakably clear that frontier technologies are a national priority. His January 30 speech, recently published, directed party cadres to ramp up understanding and oversight of quantum computing, biomanufacturing, hydrogen and nuclear fusion energy, brain-computer interfaces, embodied AI, and 6G. Subsidies remain a central part of the strategy. OECD data show that in 2024, Chinese firms received more than half of global support in 15 key sectors, and about 60% of their global market gains were linked to these subsidies. The subtle update today is the emphasis on these initiatives as coordinated moves across both civilian and defense industrial bases, signaling that China is planning to dominate emerging tech markets. China's services sector shows recovery, but with caution. The private sector PMI climbed to 54.4 in May, marking 3 months of expansion. New business, especially exports, is bouncing back, and employment in services improved after a 4-month pause. However, input costs are climbing, driven by energy, procurement, and wages. The nuance here is that Beijing is managing growth while keeping an eye on inflation pressures, showing how economic management and strategic industrial planning intersect. Internal security is tightening. The Ministry of State Security reminded researchers that routine academic and industrial behavior, including paper appendices, overseas cloud storage, and lab photos, can be high-value intelligence if captured by foreign entities. Separately, cartographer Zhou Chenghu has been detained for corruption and serious violations of duty, demonstrating the sensitivity of mapping and spatial data, especially in logistics and low-altitude drone transport networks. Today's takeaway is the emphasis on operationalizing these warnings across research and commercial domains, not just a policy statement. Resource security remains an area of concern. A coal mine explosion in Shaanxi on May 22 killed 82 miners, while an illegal operation in Yunnan targeting rare earths collapsed, killing 5. Investigations show extensive use of unregistered workers and illegal production zones. Coal remains a majority source of electricity, and the Liu Shenyu incident highlights that regulatory compliance gaps persist despite decades of safety reforms. The subtle point for today is how these incidents tie into Beijing's broader energy strategy, balancing production with financial and operational risk. PLA activity continues to serve strategic signaling purposes. Around the Taiwan Strait, Chinese aircraft and naval movements are ongoing. The Liaoning Carrier Group conducted about 170 takeoffs and landings between May 26 and 28 and moved southeast near the Philippines. The Netherlands also rejected claims that Chinese electronic warfare forced HNLMS De Ruyter to turn away near the Paracels. Today's nuance is that these actions aren't just displays of capability. They reinforce strategic pressure, show regional reach, and underscore operational persistence in contested corridors. Taken together, these developments paint a picture of a China that is methodical, multi-domain, and strategically patient. From maritime law enforcement east of Taiwan to automation in island defense, from operational PLA reach to AI deployment, industrial subsidies, and strategic energy management, Beijing is coordinating pressure points across diplomacy, economy, internal security, and military posture. Even when the news seems incremental, like a cargo flight or a law enforcement patrol, it's part of a broader, persistent strategy to project influence while keeping options open. Thanks for listening and for being part of this community. If you want to support the show, leaving a review or a thoughtful comment helps others discover it. We also share a daily written intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, where we go deeper on Russia and China, along with broader coverage of Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Wishing you a great day ahead.